Welcome everybody to Firestorm. This is your first look at the new Battle Royale game mode coming to Battlefield 5 just next week now in a few days time, and this footage was captured at a recent Game Changers event in Stockholm where EA flew a bunch of community members and myself out to be the first in the world to try out this game mode and experience what Criterion and DICE have been creating behind the scenes. So a big thanks to EA for including me and inviting me out there. Now in this video I'm going to give you my first impressions of the game mode, and just to set that up properly, this is based on just 90 minutes of game time, so I've barely even scratched the surface at this point. I'm just going to say what my experience was and basically just leave it at that until I can get some more hands-on time next week when the mode actually launches. And by that point, you'll be able to play the mode as well for yourself, and then you can come to your own conclusions. The footage in this video will have minimal cuts in it to show some proper gameplay within the mode, and I won't be editing it directly to show something that I'm referring to in the commentary, since that'd break the flow of the gameplay. Once Firestorm launches, I'll have a bunch more informational and tutorial style content that will be going up on my channel, diving into some greater detail. Okay then, let's just start from the beginning. Your staging area is an airplane hangar. It's redesigned from the one that's present on the aerodrome map, and it includes a bunch more props, but not all 64 players will spawn into the hangar. There's a couple of other hangars that those players will spawn into, and I think it's just because the hangar itself would be too small to have 64 players in it. In the hangar, there's a bunch of references to Solace, something mentioned in a behind-the-scenes trailer for Battlefield 5 single player. The narrator, Mark Strong, said the word into the microphone, and then he was told that that was top secret. This image of a bust is shown on a large flag inside the hangar. That same image can be seen on the helicopter, on various crates around the world, and you can even see it on the shoulder patch here in the Firestorm trailer. Easter egg fans, start your engines. Paradropping into the map is dealt with in a familiar fashion, but instead of all players dropping from just one single plane, there are multiple planes that fly in a formation across the map. The Ring of Fire, the Firestorm, is present on the map at the start of a round. That restricts the play area right from the get-go. Now, I spoke to John Stanley from Criterion about this, and he stated that choice was made firstly to ensure a variety in gameplay each match that you played, and it kind of stops players from dropping in exactly the same place every single time. You are going to have to think of a few different places for you to land. And secondly, it's to make sure that the maximum 64 player count was contained in a zone that would keep gameplay moving all of the time. One of the biggest issues with Battle Royale games is that mid-game lull. Sometimes things can really slow down. Criterion is trying to solve that by starting with a smaller area than the entire map allows. Once you've popped your parachute, guided yourself down, and your feet hit the ground, you know what to do. Go and find some loot. Whatever it is, equip it, and hope you're the one who gets to shoot first. You get 2 primary weapon slots, and an additional slot for a pistol, so you can carry 3 firearms at any one time. The inventory to the bottom right hand corner of the screen will expand as you collect more items. It also allows you to switch gadgets and items in and out of active positions that are assigned different buttons on your controller or keyboard, and its capacity can be expanded in size by finding larger backpacks around the world. 6 different types of ammo are shown in the inventory on the screen at all times. Loot comes in green, blue, pink, and gold rarities, and is denoted as such in the inventory. Now, I really like the fact that Criterion has gone for an inventory system that doesn't cover up the entirety of your screen when you're using it. It expands and it contracts in the right corner as you interact with it, and it leaves your screen clear for you to keep a lookout for enemies. It's a nice fresh take on managing your gear in a Battle Royale game. However, linked to this inventory system is of course directly looting from the environment, which in my opinion right now is one of the few weak points that Firestorm has. Looting, as you might already be able to tell depending on where the footage is at the moment, it is a bit finicky, and a bit finicky is probably putting it lightly. In certain scenarios it can be downright annoying. If multiple items are close to each other on the ground, pinpointing which thing you want is quite difficult, and at the moment, items just sort of sit through each other. The collision of items wasn't working correctly in the build that I played, which meant things ended up stacking on top of each other. You might want that rifle ammo, but sitting over the top of that is a healing syringe and a grenade, so you've got to move around the items to find the spot where you can pick up the ammo rather than picking up the other items, and that's quite frustrating. There's no proximity inventory either, like there is in other Battle Royale games, and there's no death box. So when you kill an enemy, their loot becomes available to you, obviously, but it sort of just farts out onto the ground in this fountain animation, and it becomes an absolute mishmash of items, especially closer to the end game where players are carrying a lot of loot. There's a lot of items on the ground when you kill another player. This clip in the top corner shows you that issue. I was in the final stages in that round, and I killed this guy, and all of his loot dropped out, and there was so much on the ground that I needed to interact with in order to collect. I was running out of ammo, I had to go and collect some, but I didn't have enough time to move around it all and collect the other stuff that I needed, so I had to leave 95% of it to be consumed by the massive firestorm that was right behind me. So that's an integral part of Battle Royale. You have to make those kind of decisions. Should I go for the loot? Should I not? But in this scenario, the looting system just stopped me from actually looting. I couldn't have done it, or I would have been in the firestorm, and I would have been there for a considerable amount of time trying to pick everything up. There's an issue here at the moment that needs to be solved. A death box containing all of those items and an added inventory UI element above the current one in the top right hand corner might be a good way of solving this problem. That way, instead of having to physically pick things up from the floor, you can use your inventory to switch things around and drop things that you don't want anymore. And again, I spoke to John from Criterion about this. He knew it was an issue already, and the team are looking at ways of dealing with this and improving the situation, but it is my understanding that this is the version of looting that is shipping with Firestorm, and it is something you need to be aware of. Looting right now is just not in a great state, I'd say. Whilst we're on the topic of loot, let's discuss health, weapon damage, and armor. Firestorm takes your base health up to 150 and gives you up to 150 added armor protection as well, giving you a maximum total of 300 before you're taken into the man down state. In that man down state, you have another 150 health that needs to be taken from you before you're 100% killed. Your health can be replenished with a healing syringe, and you can carry a bunch of those in your inventory, but armor works slightly differently. To get armor, you need to find armor plates on the map and apply them to your soldier. Each armor plate has 50 health. At the start of a round, you paradrop with a basic armored vest on, which only allows you to equip one armor plate, but other vests can be found around the map by looting, and they open up more slots to a maximum of 3, allowing you to boost up to a maximum of 300 HP, 150 health, and 150 armor. Extra armor plates can be carried in your inventory, and a lovely little animation plays when you swap the plates in and out as they get damaged. Now, as a side note, weapon damage in Firestorm, I believe, is almost identical to multiplayer, minus a couple of changes, I think, to bolt action rifle damage and drop off, but obviously, with a larger health pool, the TTK, the time to kill, is greatly extended, and that's something you will need to account for. Also, some more things whilst you're in that man down state. You can be revived, and you also have access to a pistol or a melee weapon, depending on what you had equipped at the time, and you're able to crawl around in that man down state as well. However, once you're completely killed, there is no respawning. You're out for the rest of the round and you're put into a spectator cam, where you can either watch till the end of the round, or you can quit and start a new match. Personally, having now played Apex Legends for the best part of a month, I'd love to see if Criterion and DICE could implement a respawning system into Firestorm later down the line, as respawning is a big part of the core Battlefield gameplay loop, but I wouldn't say it's a massive issue not having it here either. I'm used to Battle Royale games being one life only experiences, and respawning only recently came to light with Apex Legends, so the fact that it's not here doesn't really bother me. Could it be a good feature in the future? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. The map itself, Halvoy, is beautiful. It's massive, it's a harsh environment, it's really varied, and in my opinion, well designed for a Battle Royale game. Different locations offer different types of combat, there's plenty of cover in more urbanized areas, most of which is destructible as well, and visibility is about on par with what currently exists in normal Battlefield 5 multiplayer. The snow sections of the map aren't as barren as the screenshots revealed the other day have led us to believe, and the weather in these locations can change with differing levels of snow and cover. The Ring of Fire, that thing is just hella scary. Get too close to it and your soldier will start gasping in pain as the heat from the flames just starts to overwhelm you, and it just makes you actually want to run away from the storm. The Ring in other Battle Royale games doesn't have that kind of fear factor with it. This one made me move, whereas in other Battle Royale games, I might have tried to move outside the zone for a bit or take a hit on health as I see enemies running past and I don't want to be detected. Also, visibility out of the ring and back inside is massively obscured, so it's not even like you can gain much of an advantage by moving in and out of it either. I played a lot of Apex Legends over the last month, and not once have I ever been scared of the zone getting me in that game, but here, in Firestorm, it's completely different. I don't want that ring coming anywhere near me at all. As the firestorm shrinks, you really do feel like this tension. The fire starts to take a bigger and bigger effect on everything that's happening. All these buildings getting destroyed around you, naturally forcing players together. It made for some really frantic finishes, that's for sure. Now, when it comes to weapons and their rarity, Criterion has, for the launch of Firestorm, gone down the route of preset weapon configurations. That might be an issue for some people. I know that some people like the customization in Battlefield games, and in here, in Firestorm, that customization isn't really available. Green tier weapons are basically stock without any specializations on them and are purely restricted to iron sights. Blue tier bumps that up a little bit. It adds some specializations, although I don't know how you found out what those specializations actually were, and maybe you get a short range scope. And the pink tier weapons, those step things right up and they add the higher powered scopes for greater visibility and target acquisition. Gold weapons, I couldn't find any gold weapons when I played, although I did find a golden flare gun which called in a V1 rocket, so I assume that that's one of the rarest items in the game, and I was one of the few people that actually managed to find one of those. At the moment, I don't have a list or a chart that shows which weapons sit in what tiers and what their specializations are, but I'm sure before long someone will have done that. A couple of days after Firestorm launches, they'll put it into a wiki page or something, but this setup means you're not going to be finding different scopes and adding them to your weapons around the world. You're not going to be replacing scopes, you're not going to be finding grips or extended magazines or anything like that. You're going to be finding preset weapon loadouts to begin with. And that phrase, to begin with, was mentioned a couple of times when I was talking to developers on Firestorm. I didn't ask them to go into any detail about what they meant there, but that means there might be potential in the future that system changes and maybe we see attachments, but honestly, that's totally unconfirmed. It's just the phrasing that they used made me think that way, so maybe it's open for discussion in the future. The objectives and vehicle breakouts are cool features of the mode, although I feel the objective points themselves, they could have been fleshed out a little bit more. They're quite basic. They're literally carbon copies of conquest flags, or at least the ones I interacted with were of that variety, and all you had to do was just capture them to unlock some rare loot. There's nothing physical that you need to do, you just sort of wait there and capture the objective. If no other squads came along, then we just got some cool loot, which is awesome, but it didn't really feel like, it didn't really feel that great when I was doing it. The vehicle breakouts those were much better. You have to break them out from bunkers, and they activate this loud, wailing siren that lets people know what you're doing and requires you to open 2 different doors to let the vehicle out. If you only open one, the vehicle won't fit through it. You have to open both of them. So there's some physical work that needs to be done there. That makes things a little bit riskier, but the reward is usually a heavy vehicle that can do some serious damage. I've also been told that the vehicle spawns in these bunkers, they are random, so players can't just learn the locations and go and grab a Sturmtiger right off the bat. Now, there's a lot more going on besides what I've mentioned in the Firestorm game mode, but that's what I experienced in my first 90 minutes or so of gameplay, and I'm now going to summarise my first impression of Firestorm. In the 90 minutes I played, I quite enjoyed it. Criterion has created a great environment. They filled it with some really interesting locations. The weaponry, vehicles and gadgets all work as we know they do. The objectives and vehicle breakouts, they add a nice little bit of flavour to the standard Battle Royale swing. And overall, the pacing is really good as well. The ring keeps you on your toes, and additions like the amphibious car and the helicopter, they bring back that sandbox feeling that I think has been missing from Battlefield since the days of Battlefield 4. It's definitely missing from multiplayer in Battlefield 5. The chaos, the action, the explosions, and just in general, the fun. Firestorm is good fun. It's a classic take on the Battle Royale genre. I think fans of PUBG will probably feel right at home here with Firestorm, so if you're bored of PUBG and you want to give Battlefield a go, Firestorm might be a good home for you. And some work does need to be done to improve the looting system and tweaks to the inventory system in order to facilitate better looting, but in general, Criterion has produced something that I enjoyed for the time that I got to play it. It was good fun. It remains to be seen if it will keep my interest longer into the future, but considering the fun that I had in the short amount of time that I was given, I'm hopeful that that will be the case. Firestorm is the sandbox that Battlefield 5 is missing. That's probably the best way that I can sum Firestorm up at the moment. But for now, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to wait until Monday when I can play this game properly and give it more time so I can get a better understanding. I hope you enjoyed the video though. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments section and leave this video a rating if you liked it. But until next time, my name is Westy and I'll catch you guys in the next video.